Today on the channel, we're going to be doing a quick Just the Facts breakdown of 3 popular handheld emulation devices that are currently out there on the market. These 3 are typically found under that budget-friendly banner because they're under $100. First and foremost, we're going to be taking a look at the Anbernic RG28XX. This is a $50 retro handheld emulation device. Same thing here, we've got the Miyoo A30, also a $50 device. And lastly, we've got the Anbernic RG35XXSP. This is around $80, so a little more expensive, but as you can see, it's got a larger screen, a larger footprint. This one's modeled, of course, after the Game Boy Advance SP. They do a great job of mimicking that design aspect. And these 2 are modeled after the Game Boy Micros. First category we're going to take a look at is the operating system. Now this category is essentially going to be a push across all 3 platforms because pretty much they are all identical. Now the Miyoo right here, the A30, does have a slightly different operating system and allows you to change the themes. These 2 on the stock OS does not allow you to change the themes, so you're kind of stuck with what you see and what you get. But it is very straightforward, very easy to navigate, very easy to find the games you want to play. When it comes to user interface and operating system, it's essentially just going to be a draw across all 3 of these. So next up, let's go ahead and talk console ability because yeah, it's great to play these handheld devices, but sometimes you want a bigger screen, you want better controls, larger controls, because as you can see with this small device, not exactly the most comfortable thing for adults to be carrying around and playing for long periods of time. Unfortunately, the Miyoo right here does not have any ability to have HDMI out connectivity, and its connectivity options for controllers is extremely limited. It does have 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi capabilities, so you can connect a wireless controller that way, but there is no built-in Bluetooth for this. And like I said, without that HDMI out, you're not going to have any ability to play this on a larger screen. So that one strikes out. These 2, however, not the case. So with the RG28XX here, we do have a micro HDMI out here as well as an OTG port, so you can plug in a USB controller. We also do have that 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi capability. No Bluetooth on this, unfortunately, but you are, again, like I said, able to connect a USB controller with that OTG port, and with this HDMI out port, connect this to a larger display monitor, so that is great. With the 35XXSP here, it's even better because on the back side, we have a HDMI port again with that micro slot. We have the OTG port again with that, but we also have Bluetooth connectivity. So you can connect a wireless controller via Bluetooth, use the USB connectivity of OTG there, as well as have that HDMI out. So you can essentially have this as a pocket-friendly retro gaming companion, but when you get to like a hotel or something or your house, you can plug it in to the big screen, plug in your favorite wireless controller, or connect it via Bluetooth and continue your game on a larger platform, which is so much more enjoyable. Now when it comes to performance and gaming, the Anbernic devices both share the exact same single board computer inside, so you're going to get the exact same performance out of either one. It really boils down to which kind of form factor you enjoy the most as far as playing, and if you enjoy a larger screen or a smaller form factor for pocket friendliness. But these are going to be able to play Dreamcast, PSP, and Nintendo 64 games. However, they're not going to be able to play the entire library at full speed without issues. Some of these games you're going to have to enable frame skip to get them to play and perform adequately. Dead or Alive 2 right here, as you can see, is running about half speed. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 runs great on here. Like I said, it's just a little bit of a mixed bag. So if you're looking for high-end performance out of Dreamcast, PSP, or Nintendo 64, honestly, none of these devices are really going to be for you. The Miyoo right here has a great thumbstick, which is awesome for a lot of these games that use the analog stick. However, it has the least powerful chipset out of the 3. It can play Nintendo 64 games, but you're not going to have a great experience just because it just simply doesn't have the power to run those games. Even with frame skip enabled, it's just going to be a lackluster experience, which is really kind of disappointing because while we do have a great thumbstick right here, it just doesn't have the power to run those games. Whereas our Anbernic counterpart here has the power to run those games, but doesn't have the thumbstick. And it really is a little bit depressing that both of these devices do have flaws, one separate from each other. The Miyoo right here, like I said, we have that analog thumbstick, which is great for fighting games, PlayStation games, and that kind of thing, but it's just not a super powerful device. Over here on the RG28XX, we've got the power, we just don't have the controls. In fact, the controls are pretty lackluster. The buttons here, very small in comparison to the Miyoo. D-pad over here, much improved, even larger than what we have here on the Anbernic device. But if you're playing fighting games, you're not going to enjoy it over here. If you're playing fighting games that are above arcade level, it's not going to perform great over here. And this one, It doesn't have a thumbstick at all. It's got a great screen, but it's just ergonomically not ideally set up for fighting games in general. This is, you know, your Game Boy Advance setup, and that's really what it specializes at. So drawbacks to all three in that aspect of it. In terms of displays, all three of these devices have an IPS display. Looks great from all viewing angles. The 3.5 here, of course, has a larger display with a 3.5-inch display. These two have a 2.8-inch diagonal screen. In terms of brightness, the Anbernic devices are going to edge out here for sure. The Miyoo, it doesn't look terrible, but by comparison, the Anbernic devices are just much more brighter, much more vibrant with their colors, and that's with the Miyoo turned all the way up in full brightness. Now, when it comes to performance of battery life, this is where things really kind of get depressing for the Miyoo. It comes in at a paltry 3 to 5 hour battery life, which isn't all that great considering the fact that it has less features and functionality than the other two devices. In fact, there's not even a 3.5mm audio headphone jack here, so even if you wanted to plug in your headphones and play this on the train quietly or something like that, you can't. Now, the 28XX here has a larger battery life of 6 to 8 hours, and we do have a 3.5mm audio jack here at the bottom, which is great for, like I said, plugging in those headphones and not disturbing everybody while you're playing your game. We also have a headphone jack here at the bottom of the 35XXSP and a battery life of 5 to 7 hours. So the Anbernic devices, much better battery performance than the Miyoo. When it's all said and done, you would only typically get the Miyoo A30 here if you really care about the thumbstick and you only want to play games PlayStation 1 and below. Anything above that, you're just not going to have a good experience. $50, it's a pretty decent handheld, albeit missing a lot of nice features like the HDMI out compatibility, and the fact that we're really missing a 3.5mm audio jack is just quite a head scratcher. The Anbernic RG28XX here is a much better device in terms of compatibility with newer, more demanding games. We have the headphone jack, we have USB connectivity as well as 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi connectivity for external controllers. We have that console ability with that HDMI out. But in reality, I would recommend spending the extra $30 and getting the 35XXSP. Stupid name, I know. The buttons in the D-pad aren't the greatest. They're on par with the 28XX over here. Honestly, the Miyoo has the best controls out of the bunch, but the worst performance. So it's a give and take between all three of these devices. You, at the end of the day, are gonna have to decide which one is best for you. But if you have either one of these consoles or devices, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below.